knew what you were made of, then we would save the world. If we knew the blood we came from, then we would save the world. From its emptiness and hopelessness, we are the only ones who save the kids. Only we can save the world.
The black city's defined, the black on black crime is only a factor to black folk who lack mind. Get your mind in check before you get your kind checked. The revolution ain't immune to your old mindsets. Your revelation seeks illumination. Our reservations to react where the rats seek the preservation of the status quo where black folk lack the most. From rags to bold, show I'm passionate to crack the code and crack the skull of your coat where your crossbones meet. We ain't the same as those past generations be. Ready for action, influenced by truth. Enemies collapsing with king in the booth or on the tube, or challenging academia in the media. Writing sonnets or draft studies, don't know what's easier. Verse words in first person, I achieve without a curse word or purse person. How you do it then? Big house built before my words were influencing. This crowd filled before I killed with the music team. This our world and we're the true in them. So I carry this cross like Jim Waits to show you that we will win.
If you knew what you were made of, then we would save the world. If we knew the blood we came from, then we would save the world. From its emptiness and hopelessness, we are the only ones who save the kids. Only we can save the world.
As those who
Good evening, people. Welcome to the live stream. I hope everyone can hear me okay. Let me know if I'm audible. It's an absolute pleasure to be live. Totally unplanned, impromptu. I didn't even give you guys 5 minutes to prep for this. I just thought it's getting late. It's Sunday night. I'm either going to do this or I'm not. And I chose to do it rather than not. Thank you for the one, Darth and Joy. See, I didn't even have to ask. You guys know what time it is. Fantastic. So I don't even have to ask that question anymore. I'll take it that you can hear me loud and clear. I hope everyone's having a fantastic weekend. And yeah, not much more than that. So what's the synopsis for today? The synopsis for today is very simple. We're going to hopefully conclude going through my old Cairo slideshow, which we unfortunately haven't finished yet. We've done 3 live streams looking at artifacts from the Cairo Museum, and we're about 2/3 through, 2/3 to 3/4. So there's the potential to finish today. It took me a grand total of 1.5 whole days to get the images that I got from the Cairo Museum. So that's literally a whole, like, I think I did like 7 or 8 hours one day and about 3 to 4 hours on another day. That was like 2 days apart. So yeah, so you know, this 12 hours worth of photography and snapping away, so that yeah, you guys can experience this with me. But also I just love having primary images. It's amazing because now it happens very often now that when images are shared on the web of artifacts that people have seen and they're like, oh, this is an amazing, I've normally got a high res just in my stock, which is nice to have a high res in my stock that I've taken, so my own original kind of images. And that's a nice thing to be able to state, you know. But yes, let me just quickly give a shout out to everybody who's shouting me out in the chat. Thank you for joining me at this very last minute. Like I said, about 45 of us online at the moment. Shout out She Who Must Be Obeyed, Has Valiant, Angel, the Babes, RJ, Knowledge, Zawad or Zawadi, Jeffrey, Joy, David, Darth Skywalker, Retain Ascension, BC Suno, Yehuda's Lioness, Moses, Shayla, and Wesker and Fordham. Good to have you guys all online and yeah, supporting. Shout out Adam as well, and big Foe Nation. Thank you for joining us. Okay, so that's my shout outs concluded. It's a pleasure to have you all guys with me, and yeah, that's it. We're gonna go through some of these images, well, as much as we can, and just discuss, you know, leave it open as much as possible. I'll try to address what I can, and we'll just enjoy this time of enlightenment, seeing what's available. Now, we do know, obviously, since this visit, I did take these images in, I believe it was late November, and we do know there's been substantial change, because since then it seems like they've emptied out what was the Tutankhamun exhibit. When I went to visit the King Tutankhamun, his exhibit was nice, and yeah, it was nice and full, but it seems like they've transferred a lot of those artifacts now to the Grand Egyptian Museum, of which I have another set of probably 1,000+ photos to show you from there as well. So yeah, it's changed, but I did warn you that in previous live streams. If you've been on this old Cairo live stream, I warned you, basically saying to you that the rate at which they move artifacts is somewhat disturbing. I did say that it's quite a disturbing feeling, seeing the way they just they're continually just like boxing, unboxing, and there's massive rooms that are dedicated to restoration. Why you'd need to do that much restoration on ancient artworks, I don't know. But then when you go to Egypt, you'll see their handiwork. You'll see their handiwork on nearly all the artifacts. They are not satisfied with leaving things as they find them. Yeah, there you go. I think one of the things I also expressed to you guys is that I think there's I think there's certainly evidence or suggestion that some of the gilded artifacts were originally painted, and sometimes that paint has worn away. Sometimes it's been helped via a chemical process, and sometimes it was not painted at all. But I've now just opened my eyes somewhat as to when an artifact might have previously had paint on the gold layer, on the gold leaf, and they did that to get that lovely shiny effect. So for reference, think about the throne of Tutankhamun. Okay, think about the throne of Tutankhamun. That's an example, a really good example of a painted gild. Think about how shiny and well preserved the paint on that artifact is, and how it gives his skin this brilliance. You know, his very brownish, his very reddish brown skin, his very deep, dark reddish brown skin. How applying the paint on top of the gold gives it this brilliance. And this is why that artifact, for instance, you know, for want of a better word, shines brighter and stays in the memory of most people who have seen it. That's the effect that I think they would go for with the painted gild. So keep an eye out for that. Okay. Yeah. So I think at that note, I think we'll keep it moving. Aisha Speed has had a really positive effect. I've done a bit of content around him, and on my King Mono show channel, I've got another video coming out about his visit. I just like the attention it's given, and I'll tell you what I like equally as much as the attention that he's put on Egypt. Yeah, I like what I'm seeing from the Black community. I love what I'm seeing from the Black community. I'm seeing more knowledge of self, more knowledge of Africa and African civilization than I initially believed was, you know, it was a lot. You know, there's been a lot, like every Aisha Speed video that goes up, the community are there in you know, they're there in force, and they are defending the native Africanity of ancient Egypt. That's really cool, you know. And no, Joy, you're definitely not the only person who hadn't heard of Aisha Speed. I hadn't long heard of Aisha Speed myself. I actually had a meme. I had a meme that went viral on TikTok that had Speed in it, and I didn't know who he was back then. I'm gonna show you this. I'm gonna show you lot this meme. This is like one of my favorite one of my favorite memes. This is when I like first started the channel, and my troll game was like sensational. I've kind of eased up on the trolling, so I want to go back. I still troll a bit on my secondary channel, the King Mono Show. My avatar is Yakub. My avatar is Yakub, and people are always asking me, why you got Yakub as your profile pic? I was like, guys, you don't know me. I love a troll. I love a good troll. You have to understand that. Like, I love winding people up. Yeah, I love it. You got to have a little bit of humor, you know. You got to have a little bit of humor, you know. You can't, you know, if you take things too seriously, man, I tell you, these people will wind you up to the end. So yeah, let me show you the TikTok that I did that went viral, that had I Show Speed in it. It's sensational. When I say viral, how viral did it go? I think it did. I'm trying to remember how many views it did. It did at least 100. I might have gone through. It might have been in the mills. Let me have a look. Let's have a look. Maybe I'm overblowing it. But I used to have a lot of luck in my early TikTok days. I was like a little bit of a, yeah, it was a lot of fun. Oh, that's not good. Why does it say my page is a 404? Let me try at King's Monologue. Let me try that. Okay, that's worked. Thank goodness. So at least that means my page hasn't been deleted. Let's see if I can find this this good old meme. It's going to be well down the page because it was one of my first ones. Honestly, like, this is a sensational meme. I know I'm bigging myself up now, but it was good. It was good stuff. Some of you will remember. Who remembers the meme that I had with I Show Speed in it? Let me know if you remember. It was a good one. But we're getting close. We're getting close. No, that's not it. That's not it. Let's have a look. We're getting closer. All of the community guideline violations, by the way. I'm not sure if I mentioned, well, my TikTok has been demonetized, which is fine because I've never made any money from my TikTok anyway. They've never given me a penny for any of my content. And they're constantly like striking my videos and providing no explanation as to why they're being struck. You know, just deal for. Here it is. Here it is. So here's the one with Speed in it. Here it is. All right. So let's full screen it. And let's experience. It's very short, by the way. It's very short. So here it comes. Oh, let's get the music going.
One kiss is all it takes.
Wait. We got to bring this back. I want to play smoothly. Play smoothly, please.
One kiss is all it takes. One kiss is all it takes. One kiss is
So yeah,
all
that
it
one
takes.
did quite well. I don't know if you caught that. That was one of my fave. What he's dancing around. I'll explain it for those of you who are kind of getting the jittery playback. He's dancing around. It's an overlay, so obviously I didn't make it, but yeah, he's dancing around because he got the proper bust of Queen T, and then when the reconstruction appears, he ain't happy about it.
One kiss is all it takes.
Look, check this out. Look at the comment in 2023.
One kiss.
People are like, why is Speed there? I have no idea who Speed is when I made this meme, by the way. No idea who Speed is. I just thought, yeah, we have to get inside. We have to get involved in some of this.
Dark skin, light skin, brown girl.
Let's stop it there. If you want to have a bit of fun, feel free to visit my TikTok, subscribe, and go through some of the videos. I used to put stuff on there that was a bit more fun than what I put on the YouTube channel. The YouTube channel is a bit more serious, a bit more buttoned up. You know what I mean? Have a bit more fun when it comes to the TikTok. But yeah. Oh, here's what's interesting. That reconstruction, people are saying it's comical, has actually just done the rounds and come back now. So there's now, it's just for some reason, it's just come back to media, and like they've re-released it like some press release. It's some casual, it wasn't even like a proper reconstruction. I think it was just done by anybody, but it's now like doing the it's doing the rounds again. So I had someone message me the other day and say, have you seen the new reconstruction of Queen T? I'm like, this reconstruction's old, man. This is like well old. Like it's like, you know, I think it's like at least a good 5-10 years old. It's like, yeah, and apparently this it's doing the rounds again now, and it's been picked up by, I don't know, the AI news bots or something like that. God knows, but yeah, it's doing the rounds again anyway. So that reconstruction they're trying to bring about for some bizarre reason, you know, like the bust of Queen T is not good enough. But anyway, yeah. Some of you are telling me that you're feeling the Yakub angle. I don't blame you. All right, let's get started anyway. So we're here to view artifacts. I think this is where we ended off last time. If I remember correctly, this is the outer sarcophagi of Yuya, who is the husband of Tuya and the grandfather of Queen Taye. So yeah, that's where we ended up. So let's now move on from that. Okay, I did take a nice little close-up photo actually, just so we could see in detail. I do like a really close-up detailed image. But let's crack on now. So this is a Shabti that I took an image of. I think this is a beautiful Shabti. I'm just gonna zoom in a bit there. What I like about this is when I saw the bottom half, this is what King Tutankhamun's Shabti originally would have looked similar to. Okay, would have looked similar to this, but then they stripped it of all its color. So you have the writing. In King Tutankhamun's case, this writing was gilded. In this case, it's just being recessed and painted in white, which is quite common for the hieroglyphic work on the Shabti. And then this surface will often be given this reddish brown overlay. And this is the results. This is a nice Shabti. I haven't got the name of the person, not because I was being lazy, but because of the fact that not all of these artifacts, I think I mentioned to you, have captions on them. A lot of them are uncaptioned. The old Cairo Museum has been neglected somewhat as they move the artifacts around. They are getting a bit sloppy with how things are labeled. I'd have to look into that. RJ's just asked me if I think there's a connection between the ancient Egyptian artifacts or coffins and those of the fantasy coffins of Ghana. And I would be remiss to give you an answer because I haven't looked into that with any level of detail to be able to give you a satisfactory answer. So let me look into that. Thank you for highlighting that to me. And do me a favor and just remind me the next time you see me, like I post stuff, or you see me online, or put it as a comment, and then it's kind of more seared into my memory to remember to look into that for you. So here's another Ushabti. Once again, really beautiful one. I don't think we have a name for this either, which is really sad, because if you can just look at this, it's just incredibly African in appearance. Okay, it's a very beautiful Ushabti, really full features. And we have recess, but this time the hieroglyphs look like they're actually dirty. I'm not sure if that's the target color. It looks like there is a really, I'm not sure if that's the target color black or if that's just like dirt that's gathered inside the hieroglyphs or the medunetta there. So I'm kind of unsure. Yeah, okay, 1 second. I'm just going to mute my thingy. 1 second. I can only hope you guys didn't hear that. My kids are driving my wife's spare. So, yeah, RJ heard it. That was, yeah. Always, the timing's always perfect. Start a live stream and then you get, you get that. Anyway, let me move on, man. So yeah, this is a really beautiful artifact. Like I said, lovely Shabti. Wish I had more info on it, but I do not. Another one, and once again we can have a look what I was talking to you guys about in regards to the painted gild. This one looks like the hands used to be painted a deep brown, but you can see it's kind of like some of that brown has moved away and it's kind of revealing the guild. Okay, so there is that element there, but this is, yeah, beautiful painted artifact, lovely, gilded. And then the kind of, actually it does look like it could just be like a deliberate blue, which might have been the same as what we saw in the last artifact inside the hieroglyphs here. So they're kind of recessed once again. It looks like there's kind of like a blue that's been used there. Very detailed, really lovely piece there. I'm glad you guys find it funny. I'd probably find it funny if I weren't doing a live stream. Another beautiful one. Okay. Lovely, lovely selection of Ushabtis here. Really lovely selection. Lovely. Not much more to say about that. Just want to give you guys an opportunity to view it before I move on to the next one. This one's gilded all over. Have a look how cleanly the nose has been swiped off this one. And I want you to look, as you look at how cleanly it's been, I just want you to note where the nostrils are. You can see the left nostril here, right nostril here. You can see how wide this nose would have been. Has that been an impact as to what caused the person to literally chisel this nose off? Chisel right through the gild, right through the wood. Some of the plasters flaked as well. Was that decision impacted by a nose that was incredibly African presenting? I'm sure if I show Speed's tour guide, she'd be like, oh no, the nose, most delicate part. It's the most delicate part, so it's just natural erosion. Natural erosion. You know? I think we know better, guys. We can have a look at that, and that's it. I don't think you get many more obvious examples of deliberate removal of the nose than that. That is deliberate targeted chiseling of a nose there. That, to me, this is at least colonial, potentially Egyptian handiwork. We don't know which. There's no way I'm going to relate that to being old. Even if you look at have a look at this if you want a bit of an example of that. Look how kind of darkened and dirty this damage is, which maybe presents more natural damage. But then look how fresh the wood is around the nose, beneath the nose, where it's been swiped off here. Look how fresh that is. Look how fresh even the plaster looks. Hasn't really had, you know, centuries to gather dirt and to darken. It just looks really fresh. That would be my conclusion there anyway. Not to dwell on this one for too long, but it's always good to note and then to archive these examples of deliberate sabotage, because people will try and call you crazy and say it never happened. But then if you've seen enough artifacts, they become reference points within your mind. Over here we have another, just gilded all over. Lovely. Really nice. It also has what appears like it may be some deliberate coloration. From just comparing it to the feet here, where the gold has stayed much more yellow, up to the body here, where it definitely has taken on this reddish tinge. So perhaps some evidence of either a different compound used for the gold to make it that reddish brown color, or perhaps a covering layer. Not sure. Okay. Well, it could be a natural Asian effect. It could be one of the three. This is not like an overt example of painting on the gild, but it's still interesting to note that there is a differentiation between the appearance of the gold, for instance, around here and along the entire body. So it's just interesting to know why that may have happened in here as well. You can see it slightly different. But yeah, this is a lovely example again. See, that's actually an interesting comment. I'm going to respond to that. So RJ McKenzie said, as a kid, I thought these were all women because of the long hair. I actually think this is a headdress. So I think the hair underneath it might represent some kind of locked hairstyle. But I actually think this is a head covering. So I actually think what you're seeing here is actually a covering on the hair. Okay, similar to the Nemes, but obviously not the same. So that would be my estimation that this actually is not a depiction of hair. I think when you see a depiction of hair, I think it's a little bit more overt, it's a bit more obvious. Sometimes you see how it proceeds from the root. This one, we don't really have any root. So my gut feeling would lean towards this being a covering that's on perhaps like one the hairstyle I'm thinking of is that kind of Haforite style where that you see in Amos Nefertari, and then no, not Amos Nefertari, Lady Rye. Let me see if I can pull up Lady Rye's mummy. I think it might be Lady Rye's mummy. Let me just double check. I'm gonna pull it up. I'll show you guys, hopefully. Yeah, that's correct. So I think it's this mummy, perhaps, sorry, this hairstyle, perhaps with a covering over it. Oh, I can show you a version with Nydia's lovely reconstruction. Nydia is really a phenomenal reconstruction artist, I'll tell you. Let me zoom in here. So I'm just going to pull this onto the screen. Will it let me? Oh, here it is. There. Okay, so this is a Lady Rye's mummy. So you can see these two kind of like grouped, this double grouping of hair where you got the basically the individual braids. So the individual braided hair, okay, which is grouped together and covered. So I think that might have been the hairstyle that lay beneath. Okay, and this wonderful reconstruction is just of Lady Rye is just unmistakable. I need some applause and some ones in the comments if you're feeling this reconstruction of Lady Rye. I need some appreciation in the comments. I need something that I can take back to Nydia and say, hey, I showed you guys, I showed my community your reconstruction. Yeah, I need you guys to show some appreciation for how good this reconstruction is of this ancient Kemetic noblewoman. Yeah. But yeah, so that's the hairstyle that I'm thinking would have lay beneath a headdress like this. At least that makes sense in my head. Okay. Yeah, let's carry on. And keep flooding those compliments, because that is, like I said, a very phenomenal reconstruction. This one's got black all over it, and it's just interesting to see. There's something about the way that the black was added on this one that had my spidey senses tingling, and not in a positive way. I don't know what it was. I could just be off, you know, but I don't know what it was. It just didn't fly with me. But at least it still gives another example, once again, like I was representing to you guys, of the painted guild. So once again, we have an item that is gilded all over, but sections of the gilded item have been painted. Okay. Got another one. So this one's from the tomb of Tuya, it looks like. If I can just see that little note there. So these might be, so the items that we're looking at might still all be related to Tuya and Yuya. From what I can see, they could all be related to Tuya and Yuya. And actually that would make sense, because some of these I might actually semi-recognize. So anyway, let me just zoom in. Oh, we got another nose cleanly taken off there with a chisel. Okay. Another nose cleanly chiseled off there. Unfortunately. I mean, this one, in fairness, we've got hands that are missing as well. So they could make the argument that this one looks like it may have been dropped on its face. That would at least, if I was trying to defend the destruction, that's what I would say. And I'd have a little bit more weight. It's a little bit less obvious than that really obvious, that really obvious one that we just looked at. But I would, if I was looking at this objectively, I would have to take into account that the hands also look like they've suffered similar levels of damage. So I'll give them that. There's a semi-pass I'll offer there. Look at this one. Wow, just wow. Even with this extensive damage, you're looking at such an African visage here. It's a shame that it didn't survive. Now, I'm sure some of you have the question mark as to, was this gap deliberately widened using some kind of chisel, or is just this natural wood expanding as a result of some kind of moisture interference? I'm not sure. But look at that. And that target rich color. Once again, it's just, you have to, when it comes to these Ushabtis, like we see with Tutankhamun's and all the ones that have passed so far, there's definite, you can see from here where they've got the hieroglyphs and you see either the natural color of the wood or some kind of light gild, but you can see that you have to accept that the target color for both seems to be deliberate. But this is a wonderful piece. This could be Yuya himself. Some people would say it might be a woman. I don't know. But I think this might be Yuya. 1 second. Is that's you? Is that the U-bird? No. You. That could be, but that doesn't look like the U-bird. It might be. No, that's the U-bird. I'm just seeing if I can pull a name out on the glyphs, but I'm not that proficient yet. And I find it especially difficult when there isn't. I find it especially difficult when there isn't kind of like a bounding cartouche to make it obvious that you're looking at someone's name. Oh, actually, well, you've got that determinative there. That suggests that this is the name. So this might say, but it's just this bird. I'm not sure. That's definitely the A bird. Ah, so this looks like it says Yuya. If that determinative is what I think it is, I think this says, because these two glyphs gives you the kind of like the hard I, hard Y. So this is, and if this is a U bird, although that looks more like a U bird, so I'm not sure about that. But if this is a U bird, so that'll give us U, and this would give us the kind of soft I sound, and then this is the A bird. So that would say Yuya. So it could potentially say Yuya, but I might be wrong there. But that determinative then suggests that it might, I think this says Yuya. So this looks like a beautiful example of Yuya's face, which doesn't look too dissimilar from my reconstruction. I have to say it doesn't look too dissimilar from my reconstruction of Yuya. Actually looks really close. Which shouldn't surprise me. Okay. Let's carry on. Another beautiful example. These are really nice to look at. It's like I'm coming back to these. I'm coming back to these artifacts after not having seen them for a long time, and it's like coming back afresh and having never seen them before. It's always nice to see. Man. Beautiful Ushabtis. So once again, Really nice level of detail there. I'm just going to zoom in for you guys to see. Very African face. Lovely. Okay, I think that's the same one from another view. Do like to get them from multiple views so people can just appreciate. Okay. These are a very well preserved set of ushabtis. And we got these tools, which are kind of like these plowing tools that are used, but they're also, this shape is also represented in the hieroglyphs as well. So these probably would have been taken from those miniature figurines which show the life of Egyptian villagers or the native Kemetic villagers. That's quite a collection or selection there. Okay, so we have a happy bull, or the Greeks know as the Apis bull or Serapis, but this is the Api bull or the happy bull, which is once again just an example. And another one. Missing an ear this time. And I think this is another one, though this one looks a little bit more like a calf. Actually, no, I could say that, but then you do get some really thin looking examples of cattle in Africa. So it could just be a thinner expression. These happy bulls were also born alongside the pharaohs for many dynasties, or alongside the kings for many dynasties. So this might be a representation, a calf might be a representation of a young king as well, depending on which dynasty, because there was a link between the happy bulls and the pharaohs. So here we got we can read this. Let's see what this says. Apis, which is the Greek version of the name, is actually happy in ancient Kemet. Said he was one of the sacred animals of ancient Egypt, as he was the symbol of human power and fertility. He had a very important role in the life of Egyptians, as they were mainly farmers. In return, he was worshipped. When the sacred bull died, he was embalmed and put in luxurious coffins and buried in their necropolis in Saqqara, known as the Serapeum. They don't have any evidence of that, by the way. The evidence of that, if you've seen my Serapeum documentary, is the steles that you find in one of the corridors of the Serapeum. However, they have not found bulls' remains inside the Serapeum coffins, which I don't actually believe are coffins. I think we've lost whatever the purpose of those amazing feats of engineering were. But if you want to know more about the Serapeum, I've got a very detailed documentary that you are welcome to watch. Okay. Most of his statues are made of bronze and date back to the late period. Okay. There's a few of those for you to have a look at. There you go. There's the full display. We've read that already. How's this for I think there was someone in the chat telling me that the ancient Egyptians weren't black. How does this one sit with you, brother? If that's not an African man, then what the hell is it? Please just tell me. Yeah. And you're welcome to sit in a Syrian pose, wearing the hat headdress, which would have stored some kind of an afro as well. But how many people have seen this one before? Is this a new one? Yeah. Don't ever say that I don't show you guys nothing new, yeah? because I hadn't seen this one before. But now it's archived forever. What a phenomenal, phenomenal what piece of art this is. Zoom in nicely there. If you need to do a screen grab for some of your own content, feel free. And someone said, wow, nose intact. Exactly. Isn't that a rarity? Normally, we'd have to experience this with missing nose. Look at this. This is almost fully survived. Man, I must have been tripping. I only got one photo. This would normally have been cause for me to get multiple angles. What was I doing? But it's relatively good. Relatively good. Good level of detail. High resolution. We don't use the word sub-Saharan here, unfortunately, Ultimate Chakra. African will do. African will do. This artifact is another Osirian figurine, but a very different one. I mean, looking at the artwork and the kind of like, it's got a peculiar look to this one. I would go for very late period or forgery. This one is not hitting me as very comedic. Even the the asp looks sus. This one is not hitting me as a genuine piece. Maybe that's why I took the photo. I don't know. It's just missing some it's just missing some comedic sauce, isn't it? Doesn't look quite right, does it? Doesn't look quite right. See, this is ancient comedic. Now come on now. Come on now. Come on now. Come on now. Who was saying something about the ancient Kemites were not Africans? Like what? What? Like what? Come on, man. Of course I was happy when Senegal beat Morocco. I was also happy when Nigeria beat was it Algeria? It was very, very, very happy. Wonderful time for me. I have to be honest. But there's still no such thing as sub-Sahara. It's a slur. We don't use it on the King's Monologue community. How do you like this one, guys? Come on, you must be loving this one. Sorry, I'm just enjoying showing you these artifacts. This is like, I swear, this is like the first time I've seen it. I literally do not remember taking this photo. So this is a treat, as much a treat for me as it is for you guys at the moment, honestly. Phenomenal. Do we get any details down here? Very faded hieroglyphs at the feet there. I can't read those. That's a wonderful piece. There you go. There's another one. Not the best, a little bit grainy, a little bit on the grainy side, but we still got some of those details coming through. See, this one, I went to town. I don't know why I disrespected that gold one. That gold one was lit. Should have taken better pictures. This one I don't remember taking even. Once again in the Osirian. So these are all of these seem to be representations of Osiris. Apart from possibly this one. This could just be a ruler of Upper Kemet, but he's in the Osirian stance. Have to accept that is the Osirian stance, even though his artifacts are mission. It's just that peculiar that he hasn't got those feathers at the side of his head that the Osiris normally has. That's the only thing I was querying there. But yeah, I'd have to accept that this is definitely a Osirian representation. Another one. So I must be in some kind of cabinet showing different representations of Osiris. Another wonderful one. I think there's two possibilities here. You see, the first possibility, and this is actually a really old trend that I wanted to share with you guys. When you see, I'm going to use the word mythical, but please take it with a pinch of salt. Because I could be talking about ancestors, I could be talking about people who have been deified, I could be talking about deities, I could be talking about members of a pantheon. But whenever you see people who have deceased or are worshipped as gods, and you have depictions of them, one of the things you have to remember is that if they're not alive, yeah, you need a model. Yeah. So it's just like in modern times, you've got all of these people across the world, unfortunately, included in Africa, worshipping the image of Caesar Borgia, I think his name is. Spell it out for me in the chat. As Jesus, you know, that guy that who modeled and became the face of Jesus. But you need a model. It's very rare that you can produce a work of art without some kind of person acting in. Yeah, Caesar Borgia, thank you very much, RJ. It's very rare that you'll see a work of art and they've just imagined the face out of thin air. So what you'll find is that when you have depictions of netters, deities, gods, whatever you want to call them, ancestors, they would often bear the face of the ruler at the time. They'd often be the pharaoh in the likeness of. So this is what you'd get a lot of the time. So there's so many depictions of Tutankhamun as Amun. So what you're actually looking at is a portrait of Tutankhamun, but he wanted to create, or they wanted to create, an image of Amun. So they used the living ruler at that time. And this isn't something that died with the ancient Egyptians. It's something that carried on through ancient Rome, ancient Greece, even into Europe. So remember, on many of those depictions of Saint Maurice, sometimes they are Saint Maurice, but it would be the ruler in the image of Saint Maurice, or the ruler in the image of Saint George, or the ruler in the image of such and such. They will normally take the living person, or the ruler in the image of, what's that, Balthazar, you know, one of the three wise men. They'll normally take people that existed and place their depiction in the image of. So often it's just something that I tune myself to do, is to know that I'm looking at someone who probably was existing at that time, if that makes sense. Yeah. Oh, is that right? 1 second. Bear with me. Someone is. Oh, wow. Seems to be coming up. I hope that's correct news. Someone's saying that Dr. Charles S. Finch has passed away, which is really bad news. Oh, that's one of my. It's another one of our heavyweights in the field, unfortunately. If that is true news, I've heard. I can see an Instagram post coming up. Oh, that's really unfortunate. He was doing some wonderful work. I know he was training his daughter in the field. Oh, well, I'd like to get some confirmation on that, but if that is the case, oh, did someone say he died in 2017? Maybe I just don't know what I'm talking about. I'm baffled right now. I didn't remember him. No, because I saw him on a live stream recently. I'm sure. I saw him on a live stream not too long ago. So no, I don't think he did die 2017. I think this must be recent. Feel free to correct me, because I am known to be wrong about stuff like this. Well, I do remember watching a live stream, yeah, recently with him. Anyway, let's move on. But RIP if that is the case. Rest in peace, or rest in power, I should say. Let's carry on. So another Ushabti here. to remember which cabinet I'm in. I'm trying to think whose face that reminds me of. Nose looks a bit tampered, but it does remind me of someone. I want to say potentially Amenhotep the First. Potentially. So 1 second. Once again, still in the image of Osiris, though. We're definitely in some kind of an Osirian cabinet here, because these are all depictions of Osiris, differing depictions of Osiris. So I'm actually, yeah, I think we'll get the zoomed out view soon. Yeah, so I think there is confirmation that Dr. Finch did pass. So we'll definitely do a dedication. A few of you are asking me to do a dedication of some kind of, absolutely will. Yeah, definitely. He's definitely deserving, definitely well earned. Well, we'll honor him definitely in this chat by having by really enjoying some of this beautiful work by the African ancestors. A beautiful image of Aset and Heru. Or Horu. I feel tempted to say. I feel like the name was Horu and not Heru, just because of the African derivatives. I think Oru would be closer to those that survived the existing African languages than Eru or Heru or Ieru. So this is obviously the Black Madonna pose with Horus suckling Aset, and this became, well, this was widespread throughout Europe. This was the religion of Europe before the expansion of Catholicism, where this image was replaced by Mary and Iesu, which is surprisingly close to Ieru. Actually, on that note, when you think about it, Iesu and Ieru are quite close names, aren't they? So that's interesting enough. And here's another interesting one. The word Mary, I can't remember where I saw it, but I'm pretty sure it's etymologically linked to Egyptian Mary. So the name Mary has etymological roots in the ancient Egyptian Mary, which means beloved, as you know. So I actually think the name Mary might be an Egyptian word meaning beloved, which is interesting. Imhotep. Okay, scroll. Looking usually African. Not sure what period this one's from, but it's a nice artifact. Looks like it's tiny. Another depiction of Imhotep. Let's zoom in for you guys, so you can see what that looks like. I'm actually going to do a very short study soon on the phrase Hetep or Hotep. I think it's one that's definitely worth us digging into because it's said so often. So I'll probably post that as a short very soon. Another depiction of Imhotep. I mean, one has to agree that these are overwhelmingly African, right? Yeah, I'm sure we're agreeing about that. Another depiction of Imhotep. It's nice because each one's just looking like a different tribe in Africa, which is nice to nice to see. So here we got the little captions. The statues of Imhotep. Statues of Imhotep, when he was considered to be one of the gods, once again, ancestors go on to be revered. So the term gods, I think, is an overstatement and a slight misunderstanding of the relationship of the ancient Egyptians with their ancestors. It's the later peoples that came, and because the gods or the ancestors were more distant, the ancestors became or transformed into gods, you know, these kind of more distant beings. But for the ancient Egyptians, this would have been, you know, they would have had genealogy leading right up to each of these people in many cases. If you take Manetho's king list seriously, in all cases, they have quite a clean genealogy for all of their netters. Imhotep was addressed as son of Ptah during the 26th dynasty. So I think that's, I want to say Persian. I could be wrong about that. I think it's Persian. Imhotep was originally an engineer who lived during the reign of King Djoser, the founder of the third dynasty. He was the first who invented the building with solid stones, as we can see in the step pyramid of Saqqara. He was also known, I don't think that was the first building with solid stones, although it is acknowledged as the first pyramid, although a lot of people obviously argue with the timelines. But yeah, there's a bit, I think there's a bit to question there, because I'm sure the mastabas predated the pyramids and they were built with solid stone also. He was also known with his skill in medicine. So the Greek connected him with their god of medicine, Asclepius. Asclepius. His statues show him in a man's figure seated, placing open papyrus rolls on his lap. He was worshipped in a late period during the 26th dynasty. He is worshipped later than that as well. He was worshipped right up to the Roman period at least. But yeah, Imhotep. Let me give a shout out to The Reckoning. He says, shout out King. In the Brooklyn Museum's Egypt collection are constant reminders that Kemet was an indigenous African civilization. Honorable for them to say, but weird too. Much love from the Bronx. Thank you very much for that update and your very generous $10 donation. It's much appreciated. Yeah, I need to make my way. I can't remember when I was saying if it was on a live stream or what. I do need to visit the Brooklyn Museum, you know, the Met, make my way down to the East Coast of America. But right now, ain't no one trying to go to that country until you guys settle down, man. Your president's going mad. I ain't trying to get caught up in that whirlwind. So I'm gonna give the US a break, and just hope that you guys can restore some sanity before I make my way to willfully step in that nation. I'm not stepping in there of my own volition. No way. How could that miss at the moment? Okay, so these are images of baboon. Someone remind me of the name of the baboon measure. We have the ibis here, which is a representation of Jehuti or Tahuti. I'm trying to remember what the name of the London MMC said. No, we're cooked. Straight up and down. There's no willful entry into that nation at the moment. 1 second, let's have a, hasn't it? Thoth as a baboon. Okay, so I thought Thoth is Tahuti down here, so this would be Thoth as an ibis. But I didn't know Thoth was also represented as a baboon. That's interesting. So Thoth is Tahuti. I find it interesting, and you guys should too as well, that in the museum, Egyptian museum in Cairo, there seems to be a preference for the Greek versions of everything. Have you noticed that? We're literally in the Cairo museum, and they're preferring to call all of the artifacts and all of the everything by their Greek name. Don't you find that interesting? I definitely find that interesting. Why would they be deliberately choosing the Hellenized version? It shows a level of disdain for the native African language, doesn't it? Okay, we've got representations of what appears to be Amen here, with a on this row we have different representations. That look pharaonic, and then up here, yeah, I'm lost. These are just like multiple different representations, and I can't tell you what each one represents. Some of them look Haphorite, some of them look do we have a caption? I've got a caption there. I wonder if I captured that. It says, I can see Konsu there. Oh no, I didn't. Let's see if I can read this from where it is. So it says, statue of the god Konsu. Konsu is the god of youth and the moon in ancient Egypt. His name means traveler, and this may relate to the observed nocturnal travel of the moon across the sky. He is the son of Ammon and Mut in the Theban triad. He was represented in the form of a man wearing a kilt and carrying a crescent on his head, surrounded by a flat moon disk, as shown here in the statue. Why he is, I can't get that last word, seated. While he is seated, perhaps that says seated. So I think this is our representation of Konsu. You guys have to give me props for that sideways reading I just did. I feel like that was deserving of a round of applause. I don't know how I read that. Let's move on. So these are representations of what appears to be Bes. Who's the pygmy god or deity or ancestor, I should say once again. Thank you, RJ. Appreciate it. Only RJ acknowledges, give me a round of applause as well. Appreciate it. So you can see that I didn't have any energy for individually depicting all of these. Okay. But we do know these kind of like short-statured representations, once again, are reflected in several African populations, Central African populations, that is. Don't worry, the mods are active. Everybody, don't worry, the mods will get rid of the, who's, there's anybody with the trolling. Remember, if people have legitimate questions, that's absolutely fine. It's only if they start posting comments that are just disruptive that we should exercise our authority on them. Okay, if it's genuine questions and it's done respectfully, we're not going to block the voice of dissent, because that's not what we do here. Okay, so there's some lovely representations, many of them, as you can see, too many for me to depict individually, so I hope you're enjoying those. I'm going to quickly skip forward. There's another one. So it's interesting that Bes seems to always be depicted. What happened there? Whoops, what was that? yeah, always seems to be depicted with this very flat top of head, very flat top of head. And you can see it's on so many of the depictions that you know that that's a deliberate kind of like phenotypic choice for him to be depicted like that. Once again, there really isn't any other population than African that kind of like you can, you know, you can sensibly attribute the phenotype of the best depictions to. You know, has to be a native African, if we've got to be honest. Okay, so it's like another, this is a depiction of Ptah, I'd say, from the pose and the staff. This would be a depiction, yeah, statue of Ptah with a plaque on its back. Must have been part of a group. Here's another one as well. I actually think Ptah played a bigger role in the ancient Greek, the Ptolemaic era, than perhaps we understand. I actually think it's obviously we know that the name Egypt, it's related to, or at least we're told it's related to, the phrase Het Ka Ptah, which means house or the temple of the spirit of Ptah. And we know that Ptah really was the senior deity for most of the Ptolemaic rulers. Now, I actually think the PT in Ptah was the influence behind the name Ptolemy. I think that was an inheritance from Ptah, and I also think it had an impact on the Copts. Now, I've heard that the Copts just means Egyptians, or it comes from it, but I actually think there's something about the deity Ptah and his presence in the Delta region at that time period, that has affected a lot of the nomenclature during that time. It's just something that I'm looking into at the moment. Someone said even the cities, yeah. It's something that I'm looking into at the moment, and I'm seeing a lot of this kind of like carry over with the Petit, and I think is linked to Ptah. I think it's linked to Ptah. But that's a speculation I've got at the moment, and an area of research that I'm happily engaged in. And we'll see if it yields any fruit, but it's just worth something. I always like mentioning stuff to you guys because often it's very, very often the case that many of you will feed back to me. Here's another interesting thing as well. Have a look at this. Never noticed this before. Normally it's smooth, but look at this one. This is a deliberate depiction of hair texture. In this case, that's a deliberate depiction of hair texture. Look at his face. Okay, for anyone saying that's corrosion, look at the rest of the statue. We're not seeing any of that pattern. That is a deliberate depiction of Afro hair texture. That's unmistakable. This Ptah has an Afro. That is unmistakable Afro hair texture. Prove me wrong. I'm just looking at the rest of the statue to make sure that I'm not jumping to conclusions there, and I'm definitely not. That is definite. You can zoom out and see that is definite depiction of Afro hair texture. And that's interesting because normally you get this idea of Ptah having the similar kind of thing that Imhotep has on his head. That's probably the first time. It's probably not the first time it's been depicted, but the first time I've made the personal observation that that is a depiction of hair. This is interesting. And yes, of course, the African features are there. He's definitely African. Here's another depiction of Ptah again. That's definitely the Ptah pose with the staff. I think that staff's called the Hek. I think it's no, that's not the Hek. That's something else. I'm trying to remember what I could look it up quickly, but yeah, that's Patar again. And this is quite a display of Uraeus with the Ra representations on the head. Just looking at this artifact. Very interesting. Nice details. It's like almost it looks like a side lock, but then in combination with kind of short twisted hair. So it's a very interesting kind of combination of styles there. I'm not sure what the overall representation is there. Here's another view of it. So it's kind of a giant side lock or side plait, and the rest of the hair has the kinetic twists. So we have an individual, looks like shouldering Bastet. It's very interesting. So here's one. This is interesting because there's like a paint outline. Once again, this is, because they do so much post tampering, I don't want to comment on that, because I was about to say this kind of supports my theory. Well, not theory. This kind of supports the evidence that many of the gilded items that are clearly observably painted, so gilding wasn't always a target color. But then the way this has been done, and it looks like there's kind of been errors that have been made, I'm going to kind of keep it. I'm not going to mention that here because my gut feeling says this might have been a hurried restoration job here. So I'm happy to just kind of ignore it in this case. Yeah, looks restored. Looks restored to me, this one. Oh, that's interesting. How are we back to Yuya again? Or did we never leave? Was we just walking around Yuya stuff here? Let me see where we're at. I'm just having a look through my folder. Oh, there. It looks like there's another one. So this is Yuya's book of coming forth by day, I believe, here. Beautifully detailed. So we get to see what Yuya looks like. Okay. And this is one of the reasons why it was relatively easy to do Yuya's reconstruction, because he has quite a few really nice portraits that make it easy to capture his likeness. I think we had the discussion about his hair, and I think he had the my feeling is that he liked to, which is interesting when you look at his mummy, but my feeling is that perhaps he liked to peroxide his hair. And we know it's a habit in the area they use. I think they use cow's urine to dye the hair and to change its color. And I only had that feeling because obviously we have more than one depiction of him showing the white hair, but then we have that very bizarre phenomena with his hair being that really bright electric blonde almost, that is clearly the result of some kind of peroxide process, and it could have been the mummification, or could have just been it could have been done last minute when he was mummified, in reflection of what he liked to do with his hair when he was, when he was alive. Could have been that. Very interesting nonetheless. But I'm sure no one would dispute that that's a depiction of an African man. Well, I'm sure people would dispute, but we don't care, do we? And yes, he's seated up. Well, we have Asar seated opposite him, and we know that the green representation is it's been likened by Egyptologists to the fertility, but I think that's more guess than anything. My feeling, or from my research, I should say, I wouldn't say my feeling, my research has led me to believe that any representations of green and blue on skin were derivations of blackness. Okay, so this is just a derivative of black, and we know Osiris was one of the Netters who was called the Great Black, who had the appellation of the Great Black. And by the way, the blackness of Osiris, I'm going to make it clear, is not a racial thing. He is a Netter. It's more a depiction of his completeness. Okay, the color black was obviously, for obvious reasons, very sacred to the ancient Kemites. But I would also accept the obviously the green explanation being, vegetation and all that stuff that is being related to on that side. I don't find that explanation offensive. I think it's simpler to think of it as a derivative of black. So like I said, it's so wonderful to have this super high resolution, because this is one of those images that comes up quite a lot on the net. But now I have my own super high res version. If you ever want any of these images, just feel free to email me, and if I find the time, I'll shoot you across one or two. You have to be specific though. I'm not sending you the whole folder, it's too big. So I think this is on the same Book of the Dead. Excuse me. Now we do have, why is the quality dropped there? I wonder if that's my image. I'm just trying to see if my image is dropped there. Oh no, that's it. I don't have any more pictures of that. That's interesting. I'm just wondering why the quality of the sketch is dropped. Making sure that I'm still in the same artifact, but I think I am. It's Kemites, and obviously we know they farm, or at least they were pastoralists with the Shanga cattle, which is Africa's native horned cattle. Okay, Africa's native horned cattle. We don't farm the same cattle. The ancient Egyptians farmed the same cattle as Africans. We don't farm the same cattle as Asia and Europe. Okay, pastoralism was an independent invention on the African continent. It wasn't inherited from Eurasia, as the Eurocentric belief system likes to sell to Africa, because in their view Africa inherited everything. But actually the evidence of pastoralism on the African continent has evidence of being domestic, in that our domesticated cattle is not foreign. Okay, it's an indigenous African breed. So we have some canopic jars here. I'm trying to remember if there was a caption with these canopic jars. So I know most of you guys know the canopic jars. I think this might still be Tuya and Yuya's. So you can see there the features on these. We can obviously see that these appear like they used to be painted, and all of that has disappeared now. But what I'm okay with is they haven't done that false attempt to restore black and put pink on the lips like they did with King Tutankhamun's canopic jars. They really ruin them. And you guys can see the difference when they don't do that kind of destructive attempt at restoration. Like, we're stupid and we're born yesterday and we think that King Tut was ever represented with white skin and pink lips. You know, when they leave it as it is, we can see how naturally African it looks without people trying to do the artificial restorations. We're able to appreciate the Africanity of the features without them being ruined, you know? And that's the thing. We don't get that some privilege because they always like to tamper so much with artifacts. So these ones which are less tampered, or one might even argue untampered, we get to appreciate what we're looking at, which is nice. Someone said the guy in the back still has brown paint. You see, I mean, there's little flecks. Look how, I mean, my amazing photography. Just give myself some props. You can get right close in there and you can see what appears to be flecks of paint all over the artifact. I mean, you don't get much higher resolution than that, do you? I should be charging you guys an admission fee for this, man. I'm just kidding. Ignore me. So there's another view. Okay, and I got the back ones as well. So we get a nice little zoom in there. So it has these little flecks. I'm trying to see if that's the pattern. That could be the pattern. Is that the pattern of the alabaster? But alabaster doesn't normally have pattern, does it? So I feel like that might be surface flecks. There might be little flecks of paint on the surface. Okay, and there's another one. Yeah, that's definitely surface something. So one could argue that it's dirt, but one could argue that it's also paint. I mean, you can see it appears to be a deep, dark, reddish brown. So I'd lean towards it being paint. It would be lovely to have seen one of these canopic jars in their original glory. And obviously we know the canopic jars were for the storage of the organs of the mummified individual. So I think, yeah, we're still in Yuya and Tuya's area here. So these are their canopic jars. These are canopic jars belonging to Yuya and Tuya. Actually, and the detail on the canopic jars, normally the features really do a good job of matching the individual. So just going back, we could probably, that's definitely Yuya, because I would say that's Yuya's face. That's kind of how I depict him. You saw his stele just look like he has that I've talked about the fact that he has that kind of beakish kind of nose. This would definitely lean towards being Yuya. And then, yeah, and then that would be Tuya. I think that would be Tuya over here, who has a very round face. Remember we spoke, I'm not sure if you guys remember when I did the reconstruction, Tuya's face is incredibly round. It's almost completely circular. And that would be a very good representation of Tuya. Let's see if we can, yeah, that would be a very good representation of Tuya. And that would be a very good representation of Yuya. Those look almost the same as my reconstructions. I feel like pulling up one of my reconstructions just to show you guys. Let me pull up my Tuya and Yuya, so you can see why I'm looking at these and I'm feeling somewhat vindicated, because they look like how I estimated them to look. Just want to take a second. I never have the oldest version. Oh, maybe I do this time round. No, I never have the latest version of my computer. It's always sitting in my phone somewhere, which is irritating. Okay, Okay, maybe not. But I mean, one thing I could obviously show you is just Tuya's bar statue. Let me just quickly pull that up. Open with. There you go. So I'm just going to throw up Tuya's bar statue so you can see what he looks like there. Is it? Okay, it's already open. So this is his bar statue. So you can get a nice side profile for comparison. Can you see how that's the same individual? Yeah. And then if we run a comparison with the Book of the Dead, or his Book of Coming Forth by Day, which we just saw, let's get another depiction from that. In fact, I can scroll this one forward. Let me scroll this one forward. Oh well, actually let me go back a couple images there. So you can see his bar statue. This is as it sits at the moment in the Cairo Museum if they haven't moved it. And then let me just quickly show you his Book of Coming Forth by Day. There he is again. This is a younger, yeah, but you can see what he looks like there. So his depictions are relatively consistent. Unfortunately, I don't have the latest version of my reconstruction, which is really annoying, to show you guys. I wonder actually. Let me do one little quick search in my channel, because I might be able to find it that way. I feel like I might have shared it with you guys as a post recently. Actually, it'll be a short, won't it? Yeah, I've got a short. Let me pull up my short. Tell me if you think that the short resonates with your channel. Here we go. Resonates with the artifacts that you've seen of him. Boom, shorts. Man, browsing channels is not easy, is it? I like this open shorts on my channel. Here we go, shorts. That's how you do it. You'd think I'd know how to use YouTube after all this time. All right.
Yuya's claim this may very well be Yuya's consider.
So this is, I'm just going to pull it up onto the screen and tell me if this resonates with what you're seeing. Okay, so this is the reconstruction I did of Yuya. Here it is.
Consistent portrayal across various medium reduces the ambiguity, allowing us to confidently recreate, for instance, his rich, deep brown skin with red undertones, his long, narrow head and face, his full, prominent, arching nose, his protruding lips and mild prognathism, his full and fleshy cheeks and large eyes. His age adjusted upwards presents us with a face that is almost a perfect match for his mummy in feature positioning and size, proving that honoring the artwork should result in an outcome that complements rather than contradicts the anthropology. Yuya's consistent portrayal.
So, I don't know, let me know if that kind of like resonated. Yeah? Did that resonate with the artifacts that you're seeing? For me, they are, yeah, there's a bit of rhyme and reason there. Cool. Let's carry on. So anyway, that was quite satisfying going through Tuya and Yuya's artifacts there. Got a colossal head here. Looks like Ramesses, I'm going to say, because he's depicted in this way so often. Let's have a look. Yeah, it says Ramesses II. This is maybe one of the most common depictions of Ramesses II is in this format. I actually have a reconstruction of Ramesses II in this format as well. I have a reconstruction of Ramesses II in that format. I think I shared it a long time ago with you guys as a post, but I didn't do anything more than that. Sometimes I do all that work just to put it in a post on YouTube and then that's it. And then no one ever sees it again. I want to see if I can dig it up. luckily I don't post like that often. I'm not like a prolific poster, so hopefully I don't have to go too far to find it. Is that it? No, that was a new Ramesses. It should be near though. No, I'm scrolling. I'll get there soon. Give me 2 seconds. See if I can pull it up. Oh, maybe I can. No. If I don't find it in the next 10 seconds, I'm going to give up. 10, 9, 8. I feel like I can get closer. 7. I do post a lot more than I thought I did. I'll tell you that much. I didn't think I posted that much. 9, 5, 4. There's you, yeah. And 2, yeah. And I'm going to give up. I'm going to give up for now because I can't find it and it's taking me too long. It's knocking the momentum out. I'm going to carry on moving. If I find it, I'll find it. Let's carry on. Says Ramesses again. Now, the Golden Throne. This is the Golden Throne. And this is what I was talking about with paint on gild. Now, as you can see, the Golden Throne looks really, really red. And that's because it is being blasted with about 6 different lights from all directions. They're doing everything they can to make this unbearably bright. The color, when you see it with your eyes, is brown. It's supposed to be a deep brown, but because of the way they've got it displayed, yeah, it looks really reddish. And actually, when I saw it, I was like, this actually looks even more red than depictions I've seen of it. It doesn't stop Tutankhamun from looking like an African, but I wasn't that happy, you know, when I saw it, because I just felt like the amount of like hot halogen lights they had facing towards it. They do a lot of things in Egypt that just will, if you go there, they just unsettle your spirit. They just unsettle your spirit. There's no other way I can describe it than that. And I know that's going to sound really flaky and weird, and it doesn't matter if you kind of accept it or not, it's fine. But they just do a lot of things that just really unsettle your spirit, where you're like, you know, it's like, this can't be good for this artifact for you to be hitting it with these. Like, you could feel the heat from those. And I don't know if it's like they know what they're doing, man. They know what they're doing. I don't know. But either which way, it is a beautiful, beautiful artifact. The Golden Throne. Very beautiful. We have Tutankhamun, his wife, Aten. Actually, this would be interesting to know. I'm just gonna have a look at his could barely read that. Here, compare Ra. Amen. Yeah, it's called Amen here. So he is Tutankhamun at this point. Just double checking if he was called Tutankhamun, because his birth name was Tutankhamun, and then he became Tutankhamun. So I was just making sure, but he is Tutankhamun at this point. It's a wonderful artifact anyway. Hope you're enjoying that. And it does just have an overall, the scene is just like something that you just, yeah, something that you could just depict this in any African civilization. It just feels like such an African scene. Everything obviously from the dress, which they always have such a hard time reconciling, you know, the fact that Africans still wear neck collars and so many in many different civilizations, from the Ethiopians to the Xhosa people. Zulu, I think, still wear them as well. This wearing of African gear is just, very, 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 it's a very African scene. It's nice to see. And yeah, some of you notice, obviously, you got the hands on the rays of the sun, and they touched the faces with the ankh, which is a very common depiction, particularly in the Amarna period. We get this kind of like touching of the face with the ankh. So as an African, we know how we could interpret that, because we know the role of the sun and how much, how it passes life. I'm sure there's other layers to that as well, but there's also that very basic layer. We have to understand as well the role of melanin. There's another view. And another. So I just want to make sure that we got a good amount of detail, so I wouldn't lament later that I didn't get the images that I wanted of your side view as well, just to give us an idea of the depth, so you get an idea of how much it protrudes from the chair, get a little bit of an idea of how 3D this is. They did not play when it came to art. There's that's for sure. And it's interesting, this hairstyle as well. There is the possibility that Queen T in that famous bust would have originally had a hairstyle similar to this, where it was overlaid, the afro was overlaid with these kind of like blue beads. King Tutankhamun had a beaded skull cap crown, so admittedly it wasn't as high, it didn't have as much hair as this one. It was one that was literally on his scalp. So there you go, there's an image of the entire throne. It's a beautiful piece of artwork. I have a depiction of Osiris here. I'm trying to remember if that's it doesn't jump out to me as Tutankhamun. Could be, but it doesn't jump out to me as a depiction of Tutankhamun. See, it says here, okay, so it's a statue of Osiris with the name of an official. Okay, so this is Senunis the First, so that'll be the 26th dynasty, is it? So it's a completely different time period, Senunis the First, I think, if I remember correctly. So yeah, I didn't think it looked like Tutankhamun, and it's not. Yeah, it's a Tanite dynasty, I think. We saw this, so this has been moved to the gem. Who remembers seeing this in the speed thingy? Because I commented on this and I said that's a beautiful depiction of Anubis. So this has been moved to the gem now, so it's no longer in the old Cairo museum. So I got a depiction here of what is Jed pillars, and I'm not sure, it's kind of like Ankh-ish depictions. I'm not sure what these are. Does anyone know what these are depictions of? I haven't seen, well, I don't know what these are particularly. Feel free to fill me in. I recognize the Jed pillars, but this particular shape that kind of looks like an ankh. I'm not so sure of what that is. Is that a sandal? Is that one of those ankh sandal? Because it looks like that could be the sand. That could be a strap. So this could be a depiction of a sandal, maybe. I'm not sure. Someone says they're ivory jars. Okay. I can't argue with that because I don't know. Let's carry on. That's the back of the golden throne, if you've ever seen that before, or if you've never seen that before. So there you go. There's a view you might never have seen before. You have Tutankhamun's throne name here. Khepru, Neb Khepru Ra, which was his throne name. And then this one, which is Ankh Sen. So I think this is his wife's name, Ankh Sen. So I can't remember what the name is. Ankh Sen 10. Someone remind me of his wife's name, which I'm pretty sure this is what this is depicted here. Ankh Semanum. So there we go. So Ankh Sen Amun. Not getting Amun here. I'm getting Aten here rather than Amun. Could be reading that wrong, obviously. Yeah, this is definitely Aten Ra. So here his name is Tut Ankh Aten Ra. Okay, so this is showing him as Tutank Aten Ra rather than Tutank Amun. So that's interesting because that definitely says Tutank Aten Ra, and this says Ankh Sen Aten as opposed to Ankh Sen Amun. So this is prior to them being changed over to Tutank Amun and Ankh Semanum. Interesting. So yeah, their names are still attesting to Aten on the back of this throne. Maybe it's different on the back than it is on the front, which is interesting. That might be interesting to look back at. So here's a nice side view. So we have the asp, which is a representation of the goddess with the wings of Ma'at. So that's like the cobra is the feminine. The cobra is the feminine, or the depiction of the feminine deity or the feminine divine power. You have the wings of Ma'at, and then sitting on the Neb or the Lord dish, the Lord or the leader or and also wearing a double crown. Well, actually, no, that's the crown. Yeah, that's the double crown. And then the name here is once again Tut, Ankh, and Ra, Aten Ra. So it's Tutankhamun Ra, Aten Ra. So this is still definitely being attested as Tutank, Aten Ra, or Tutankhamun Ra, Aten Ra on this throne. And it's funny because I'm not sure if they've mentioned it here. Let's have a read through. It says, the rich decoration and unparalleled craftsmanship of this piece make the throne of Tutankhamun, one of the most iconic artifacts from ancient Egypt. The piece was extensively reworked after its original manufacture, and it's been speculated it may have originally been made for Akhenaten. Interesting. Wonder what that was based on. In any case, its current form dates to the earliest years of Tutankhamun. The back panel still bearing traces of both the king's birth name, Tutankhaten, like I said, the living image of Aten, and his queen's birth name, Ankh Senpa Aten. Her life is Aten. Icons of the Amarna period are still to be seen on the throne, in particular the sun disk that dominates the main scene. Less obviously, flying ducks among the marshes on the rear of the backrest are typical of the period. Underneath the Aten, Tutankhamun is shown lounging on his throne whilst Ankhesenamun applies perfume from a cup she holds to his left shoulder. The winged cobras that make up the armrests, the two lions' head of either side of the front, and the cobra frieze on the rear served as insignias of protection for the reigning pharaoh. Between the legs of the chair, the Sema-Tawi motif was formerly present. So the intertwined lotus and papyrus stalks symbolize the unified upper and lower Egypt resting beneath the sovereign pharaoh. The accompanying footstool in the display was found on the seat between the armrests and is presumed to have originally been used with his throne. So let's carry on. Okay, so this looks like the, would say, enemies or the surrounding nations, and they're shown, appear to be shown as bound. So I've got one side here showing what appears to be some Nehesi. Did I not get the other side? Okay, we've seen enough throne now. Let's move on. Now I think this is Senunes, this silver in a coffin, it appears to be. So I think this is Senunes, but this is a pretty substantial work of art. I was quite shocked to see this because I hadn't seen it before. Let me know if anyone's seen this before. I haven't seen this before. It is a pretty substantial work of art. Really wonderful. Let's carry on. Got a nice top-down view of this one. Once again, this is, I think, Senunes, which is a Tanite dynasty, if I remember correctly. So these are all artifacts that was definitely 100% the first time I'd seen these. Hadn't seen these before. So obviously, as you can see, I was snapping like crazy, getting some really good close-up detailed shots of this. The golden, by the way, the golden mask was there, but they don't allow you to take pictures of it. Yeah, so the golden mask, King Tutankhamun's golden mask, was in a room just outside where the golden throne was, and they did not allow you to bring your camera or take any photos or have your phone out. They were policing it hardcore. So unfortunately, I don't have any pictures of the golden mask of Tutankhamun because they were deliberately quite, not forthcoming with that. So let's see what it says here about fingers and toes. Ornamentation for fingers and toes. The hands and feet of Susenes's mummy were adorned with gold finger and toe stalls. These coverings helped keep the small bones protected after mummification. They are solid and carefully made, especially the nails, and each digit wears a thin ring. The imperishable quality of gold imitated the flesh of the gods, emphasizing the divine nature of the deceased. That just sounds like fluff, doesn't it? Well, yeah, anyway, there you go. I think this is like a golden necklace of some sort. So it says Shibuya collar. The 7-line inscription engraved on the back of the Shibuyu's clasp is hugely important. It is the only known text that gives the full royal titulary of Susenes I. The outside of the clasp shows a series of bumps imitating 5 rows of 7 beads, cleverly disguising the join. The collar would have originally had, and then the bottom is cut off. Oh, there we go. Would have originally had a counterweight hanging from it. So 21st dynasty. Excuse me, I said 26th. I was incorrect. It's 21st dynasty Sunnitas. Yeah, I should have known that because 26th was not indigenous. So this is another necklace. Lapis lazuli. I'm going to kind of skip over some of this jewelry. Feel free to pause it and read it when you're within your own time. But this entire exhibit is dedicated to Susenes I. So this entire exhibit is the 21st dynasty. Canopic jars. Just kind of flicking through, and then a whole bunch of ushabtis, like loads, literally. Let's just have a quick read of what it says about the shabtis. It says, Faience shabtis inscribed to Susenes I. These shabtis are made in the classic New Kingdom style. The overseers are depicted with a braided beard, hands crossed, holding a pair of flails with thick handles forming a club. The front of the loincloth bears a black painted column mentioning Osiris, King Susenes. Remember what I said about the depicting themselves in the form of a netta as opposed to just making up the image of a netta. I concur with this. I have to put this comment on the screen because I concur with it. It says here, would love to see Black people put together their own museums containing all the real art of their ancestral creation in its raw form, unmodified and doctored by colonialism. Well, you know what? I'll say this, yeah. There really is no excuse as to why this isn't being done. I have to say this. There's really, Black people, Africans have no excuse to not be. Do you know a museum can be a house? It could be a mansion. Do you know how many people have the finances and the capability to just go around the world buying artifacts? Like it literally would cost one rich African, one rich Black American, one rich Black Brit, maybe a couple mil to put together a decent museum. Literally like a really decent museum. You know, you can find artifacts anywhere. Artifacts are always for sale, and you can find many artifacts, you know, representing Black history. On top of that, you know, even if we want to do it domestically, going to places like Nigeria, like, you know, someone, you know, the treasury putting up the funds to just create a museum and then just gather artifacts from different places, you know, buy stuff of different markets. I went to a museum the other day called Chiddiston Castle, and I went there to see the a replica of the Nefertiti bust. And it's funny because the replicas of the Nefertiti bust all look exponentially more African than the one that's famous, which is really weird. have this weird theory about what happened to that bust, and yeah, it being a fake from the original, but then even undergoing further doctoring once it reached Germany. But that's a whole side note. But the point being that Chiniston Castle was literally just a relatively small castle that they decided to convert into a museum, and they bought artifacts from China, and it's all a private collection of a guy called, I'm trying to remember his name. I can't remember. I'll try and remember, but it's literally a specific collector, and this is just his collection, and it's a museum, and it was a decent museum. It's small, you know, it wasn't like going to the British Museum, but it was a decent museum. So there's nothing really. I kind of got this revelation when I spoke to brother Robin Walker as well, is that really a lot of the rebuilding work is actually within our grasp at the moment as we speak, as Black people in the Caribbean, in Africa, even in America. Like, we can do a lot of the rebuilding. You know, a lot of Robin Walker raised a really good point, and it's a point that I knew, but when he verbalized it, I was like, that's so true. A lot of what we classify, what we rate, what we classify as English heritage, you know, European heritage, we go to these great European cities and we're like, oh, look at Paris, look at London, and they are beautiful cities. Let's not get it twisted. London is a beautiful city. Paris is a beautiful city. A lot of major European cities are very beautiful, and they have this amazing heritage in the architecture, and all that stuff is only about 150 years old, you know. None of that stuff goes to antiquity. People look at the British Museum, they're like, oh, you know, you see this wonderful building with these tall columns and tall pillars. The British Museum was built in the mid 19th century, yeah, the mid to late 19th century, as was Trafalgar Square, yeah, as was Buckingham Palace. All of these buildings were built during something called the Greek Revival period, where, without going into too much detail, they were stealing a load of architecture from Asia and Africa, okay, and bringing it back to Europe and passing it off as their own, and they called it the Greek Revival. But don't worry, I've got videos coming out explaining all of that. But the point being that they're not even that old. So people think they're walking on this really old heritage when they're in Europe. Oh, look at these old buildings. These buildings were built during the height of imperialism. That's when they were built, okay? They're not old. So Africa, we can sit here licking our wounds about the past and all the great things we did, or we can start actually focusing our funds and actually rebuilding some of that lost heritage, taking some of the legacy that we've managed to retain in places like Timbuktu, okay, in the libraries, in the written works, in our Ajami script, even in the words of what was written by the Portuguese and stuff when they visited Benin. We know what a great city it used to be. Rebuild it. We can rebuild it. Yeah. So it's time for Africans in general to stop sitting on their hands and to start to really, take control of their heritage and and start to rebuild these cities and to rebuild some of this greatness. Because no one really is sitting on the oldest stuff that you get really is Egypt, and look what they've done with it. No one wants to go to frigging Cairo. It's a shit hole. It's horrible. Yeah. They don't even, the actual real old stuff no one touches, and then the stuff that they've built since then it's just not it's not great, that's just it. So yeah, you got me on a little bit of a side quest there, but I concur, RJ. That was a insightful comment, and I love it. Time to build our own museums, rebuild some of that greatness, rebuild some of those cities, put up some monuments, and create the nations that we want to live in. The time has come. Definitely, the time has come. And if they can do all that stuff in the 18th century, even though they stole a whole bunch of it, why can't we do it now? Or the 19th century, I should say, not even the 18th. Operation Legacy and the looting of Africa. If only people knew. Oh, look at these weapons. Well, that blade is definitely sus, but the handle is impressive. Well, it's just plastic, isn't it? So let's see what it says about that. I didn't see that before. It's a decoration. Oh, so we're still in the 21st dynasty. So this is King Tutankhamun's canopic jars that I abhor, not because they're not beautiful works of art, but because of the ridiculous amount of tampering and restoration. This is what I was talking about. You know, this ridiculous, like, this is the only item where you see King Tutankhamun depicted with pink lips. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's clearly they've reintroduced the black. Look at this. This one just didn't go according to plan, did it? Look at the black around here. That didn't go according to plan, did it? When they bought out their black paint and decided to do their partial restoration in order to make it look like he had pale colored skin. It's really pathetic. It's really, really pathetic. So yeah, one of my most frustrating things is King Tutankhamun's canopic jars, because they've just been ruined by this ridiculous partial restoration, which you can see was painted on yesterday, because it just doesn't have any of the patterning that you'd expect with kind of like the partial degradation. Okay. Remember what we just looked at with canopic jars that actually had underwent some kind of partial degradation. Remember how they looked? Let me just quickly remind you guys. There you go. I lost my stream for a bit there, guys. But yeah, this is how it should look. Okay. This is Yuan 2 years one. Okay, so this is how it should look. You know, versus their ridiculously, blatantly, and not very skillfully restored version. Horrendous. Absolutely horrendous. Yeah, Michael Jackson indeed. I mean, look. Do I have to say any more, guys? I'm so glad I took this picture. Do I have to say any more? For those of you who are like, oh, that's a conspiracy theory, TKM. You don't know that they repainted that. That's how they found it. Did they really? Did they really find it like this? Did they really find it with black paint spilt on the back of his head? That should be the end of the discussion, isn't it? Because this is exactly what you see on the back of Rahotep's neck as well. Whenever they do obvious tampering work, they always leave their lazy, sloppy clues. Tell me right now, how did spilled paint survive on Tutankhamun's canopic jar and none of the surface paint? Yeah, this was absolutely ridiculous. But this is so Eurocentric. It's what you expect. This is what you got from that period of Eurocentrism, was this kind of, they couldn't even be bothered to clean up after themselves. Absolute joke. Look at that. Look where it's spilt, as they were so hurriedly trying to shove this black paint on it. They've spilt it everywhere. Absolute joke. Look at this. Look at it spilling out of the seams. Look how messy they are. Absolute joke. Just don't have the skill to do these things. I find it interesting that his name has changed on here to Neb, or yeah, Keper Neb Ra. It was Keperu Neb Ra before, or Neb Keperu Ra. Now, why is that significant? Well, I'm going back to my theory of what the Keper represents. Okay, Keperu was a plural. It was pluralized by the three little strikes that you used to have beneath it. And this is a speculation, so I'm happy to be corrected on this. But I think that this is a result of, or at least a representation of, the number of children he had. Because I think we're aware of the fact that he had some stillbirths or something like that, or some miscarriages. I'm not sure, but we had Nepkeperura, which is essentially, if I take my interpretation of the Keper being a representation of kind of like parenthood, okay, having the single without the plural would suggest having maybe one offspring, which would give us the Keper Nebket, or Lord of the, I know they say, I think they say that means image or something, but I think it's more to do with parenthood. Okay. This might be a signification of the fact that he has one or maybe even no offspring at the time of his death. So he lost the Keperu and it just became the Keper. So Neb Kepera. I could be wrong there, by the way. I'm happy to be challenged on that. But I just think it's interesting to note the change of his throne name between what we saw on the golden throne and what we see here in his canopic jars when obviously he's passed. Just interesting to note. Depiction of Ma'at, still lazy, sloppy outlining work that's been done. None of this would have been black originally, in my opinion. This is just a Eurocentric attempt at, I mean, look at this. This is so sloppy. And the worst thing is, I bet you if you see the actual, I wish I'd gotten closer, the carving for the hieroglyphs is probably perfect. And they've just made it imperfect with their ridiculous black paint. I mean, look how sloppy that is. You cannot tell me that was how it was originally done. You can't tell me that. There's no way I'm going to accept that. I'm sorry. This is the sloppy work of Eurocentrists. Beautiful depiction of the Guardian statue, or as it's called. I just think it's Guardian statue is kind of a name that has been given because they wanted to once again assign the depiction in the perfect black as a kind of evidence that these were kind of like statues for his afterlife. But the perfect black could have just been once again an Assyrian depiction. He's in the pharaonic striding pose here, which is a pose that they're often depicted in when they're alive. With the staff, we have, Amenemhat the first, Senusret the first, all depicted in this striding pharaonic pose during their life. He's wearing the cut crown. This one's got a wonderful bulge at the back, showing kind of like the afro hair inside it as well. Beautiful, beautiful statue. Lovely to have my own. It's in glass. Okay, it is in glass. And obviously you can see the deliberately reddened eyes as well, which is a wonderful little bit of it's a perfect complement to the jet black skin they've given him here. Okay, because that deep melanation would like to express itself through the eyes. So that's just kind of like one of those kudos to the attention to detail of the ancient Egyptians there. This is a beautiful depiction of Tutankhamun. So it's almost full length. I've taken it sideways. Looks identical to my reconstruction in this depiction. You can see, I mean, how do you explain this headdress without afro hair? Someone tell me, please. How do you explain this full, three-dimensional, full of hair headdress without using afro hair as an explanation? Someone tell me that. This is one of the oldest iterations of a hair bonnet, the cat. Very wonderful. In this, just looking at him, looking at his limb proportions in this depiction, doesn't this just remind you of, just in this depiction, it really does give me, it really does harken to like the Sudanese, just that long, lengthy African limb proportions. Really does harken to the Sudanese to me here in this depiction. There's a nice rear view of the cat crown. Complete back view if you needed it, with that kind of like, looks like an expression of plaits. So would this been, had that been is this a part of the headdress where the bonnet is tied, or is this a continuation of the hairstyle, which would have to be crazy amounts of long hair to have that? Let me give a quick shout out. Thank you very much, Sheltonator. I appreciate your $5 contribution. It's much appreciated. Shout out to you. Feel free to leave a comment and I'll read it out. Look at the limb proportions and the broadness of the shoulders. The depiction of the bodies in ancient Kemet really are some of the smoking guns when it comes to, you know, we can have a back and forth argument about many things, but I've said this before and I'm going to say it again. I'm going to keep saying it till it drives home. These statues depict the bodies of Africans. We can go back and forth and have these, you know, ridiculous, meaningless arguments about complexion and this, that, and the other, and this, you know, oh, they weren't black, this, that, but it's like, these are the bodies of Africans. Okay, those square shoulders are the square shoulders of Africans. They can be found all down the Nile. Yeah, this is how African bodies present themselves. Okay, you cannot tell me that this format that we are looking at right now is the natural representation of modern North Africans, for instance. They just don't have these body plans. These body plans are African. There's just no two ways about it. This is why they like to get people who are like, you know, professional bodybuilders to dress up as the ancient Egyptians, because they know when they just put on the ancient Egyptian garb with their natural bodies, they don't look like this. They don't look like this, but Africans do. We just look like that naturally. Okay, it's a difference in our physiognomy. There's not really a debate to be had when it comes to, I mean, if you want to look at that, you could debate, oh, he's not, it's just a spiritual color, this, that, and the other. It's like, okay, cool. Well, then do you want to argue with me about the form of his body? Seriously, do you really want to have an argument with me about the way his body presents? because I'd be very interested to see how you make that. You know, this is not some bodybuilder. You know what I mean? This is just a natural. He hasn't got a six pack. This is just a natural African body. Yeah, on a fruit and berry diet. You know, that's all it is. Okay, this is definitely Tutankhamun because I recognize the features, the mouth, the face shape. This is him. I know the nose we've lost here, but you get very used to how he depicts himself. And he wears the crown of Amun. I hadn't seen this artifact before, by the way, but it's definitely consistent with depictions of Tutankhamun. The flash didn't work very well. That one as well. Trying to remember where this one was. This one, I think, guys, I think we can all agree that this has been retouched, yeah? And this brick red color, I'm going to say to you right now, this brick red color that you can see, this is the work of the conservators. Okay? This is the work of the conservators. This brick red color, I can't tell you how many old kingdom artifacts are now slapped from head to toe in this color, and I'll show you them when I show you the pictures that I took at the Gem or the Grand Egyptian Museum. I can't tell you how many, but this looks like it was painted yesterday. Come on, man, my this looks like it was painted yesterday. This is no freaking way that this is how they found it. This all over, the entirety of this has been retouched, repainted. I think it's sacrilegious that they actually do that. It's absolutely sacrilegious. We don't want stuff that's been repainted. We just want stuff to be shown in its original form. Horrendous. With another book of Coming Forth by Day here. Is this my hair priest? Maybe? No, maybe not. She hasn't like my hair priest hairstyle. But that does. Taming a snake is very interesting. Took me a while to take in the fact that he's taming a snake here using sticks. So this papyrus is so letting you see some of the depictions on this papyrus. Yeah, this is my high priest, because I know I definitely recognize this depiction. So this is my high priest. This is one of the most well preserved, and if I remember correctly, it literally goes around an entire floor. This papyrus is so long it went around an entire floor of the old Egyptian museum. It's humongous. It's one of the most well preserved that they have. Phenomenal. Osiris seems to be depicted in his darker form here. Like I said, I always view it as iterations of Kimwer or the Great Black. There's an offering being made to Osiris here by my high priest. I'm trying to remember what different cows represent. I believe they represent different seasons, if I remember correctly. I can't remember. There is a significant reason as to why we have these different depictions of the cattle. And there's my high priest again. Someone said they are the 7 cows of the fields, of the field of offerings. I count 8 there. You might argue 2 of them look this time. There's more than 2 that look the same. Okay, and this is my high priest's mask, his death mask. Now, here's what's interesting. Remember what I talked to you about? We obviously know that my high priest is, he's depicted several times as being a very melanated brother, extremely melanated. Now, obviously, hopefully you all know that gilding is not a depiction of complexion. No one has golden or yellow skin. However, I also mentioned about the fact that gilding was sometimes pre-painted, and I'm looking at the copious amounts of dark. Can you see all the dark? And I feel like his face may have been painted previously. Can you see how the gold differs completely from the gold between the stripes here? Look how yellow this gold is between the stripes. But as soon as you get to his face, we get this rubbed away dark brown. So I feel like this is a really obvious case of a face that used to be painted a dark, deep brown, and that's now been lost. Because otherwise, if it's the case that no, that's just a result of wear and tear or whatnot, then why aren't we seeing the same phenomena on the headdress? Okay. So I think that this used to be painted solidly in a deep, rich, dark brown to match his complexion, which has now been rubbed away to reveal the gilding beneath. That's what I think. I think this is quite a clear case. What do you think? Do you think that that's a possibility based on the evidence we can see here? Let's answer the troll quickly. If the Egyptians were black Africans, why are there no structures in sub-Saharan Africa similar to Egypt? Oh dear. There are more pyramids in Sudan than there are in Egypt. And that's it. There you go. That's the answer to your question. We're not even going to mention what lies beneath Lake Nasser. Okay? We can simply talk about the fact that the very structures that we relate to ancient Egypt are more numerous in the land of Sudan, which is sub-Sahara, or sub-Saharan Africa, if you want to use that slur. And they show very clearly a link to the ancient Egyptian civilization that is not repeated in Eurasia. So now that I've given you that, can you show me the pyramids in Eurasia, please? Okay, show me the structures that link the Eurasian landmass to ancient Egypt. Yeah, feel free to do that. We're not going to talk about the words of Diodorus and the origins of the hieroglyphs, and we're not going to go into anthropology. We're not going to talk about the fact that the ancient Egyptians were just simply black Africans like their Ethiopian brethren, Ethiopian being Central African. We're not going to talk about all of that. We need you now to come with your evidence that the ancient Egyptian civilization wasn't African. Yeah, you do that for us. Thank you. Cheers. We're going to move on now. Yeah, I think that this was painted dark brown. That's, I mean, if this view doesn't communicate that clearly, I don't know what does. This artifact, I think I remember seeing this artifact. I took a picture of it because I remember seeing it way back in the day. Way back in the day, I think in the ancient aliens times, and they said that this was a design of a glider. I don't know if anyone saw that. I'm sure it was this. And I think some of these kind of like Discovery Channel guys, they rebuilt this, and this design actually flew. It actually worked as a glider. I think that's what it, I think they did do that. I think they actually rebuilt this. It's a long time ago. It might have been like 25 years ago. I saw that documentary when they decided to kind of like put to the test to see if this would fly. And it did. They built like a life-size one and put people in it, and it flew. So this is the artifact. So when I saw this artifact, I had to take a picture of it. It was just sitting somewhere. I'm not even sure if I had a sign next to it. It was like really just discarded to the side. It was being given no respect. But when I saw it, it was like, oh my gosh. It was like light bulb. I've seen that before. Okay, so we have a few depictions of the Keper or the scarab here, which I've become increasingly obsessed with because of its significance. What's the time? Oh man, it's late. It's 12:30. Guys, there's 180 of you, and I appreciate every single one of you. But I think I think I've reached my conclusion point now. It's really late. Let me see how close I am to the end. That might influence my decision. Yeah, I'm still not close enough to the end to want to carry on and finish. I'm gonna need another live stream to finish off. This is gonna end up being a 5-part series, it looks like. Sorry guys. Well, I'm not sorry, because I've shown you a lot in that time. We did get straight into it, and I've definitely shown you a lot. There you go. It's past 1 a.m. in Nigeria. Shout out to you for staying online, man. Guys, have you had a good time? Wait, is this what Black Beetle was based on? I don't know. Don't know if this is what Black Beetle was based on, but this is the Keper, which is the scarab or the dung beetle, and it's a very sacred creature to the ancient Kemetic people and to Africans as a whole, because of its ability to raise its young singularly. Yeah, and to provide a mobile womb, which is interesting. So yeah, it's a very sacred creature, linked to birth and nurturing. Or if you take the Gardner translation literally, it means in the image of, but I don't think so. Anyway, let's wrap it up for the day. Thank you very much. She Who Must Be a Baby said she had a really good time. I had a good time. And I had a good time catching up with you guys. I hope you found this live stream informative and you saw some artifacts that you hadn't seen before. And yeah, that was it. I just wanted to kind of come on. It was really last minute, and I was glad that many of you came to join me, because it would have been a lonely time if I was by myself. Let's catch up on the next one. I'll probably make a thumbnail for this by tomorrow at some point. But for now, I'm going to hit the hay. Have a good evening. Have a fantastic weekend, everybody. Appreciate you. Take care and peace. Oh, shout out to The Reckoning and Shelternator for their donations. And shout out to all of you guys for just joining. Too many of you to name, but I appreciate you. All of you. Thanks a lot. Peace.